Next topic of the day, Rocket League.
Sweet.
Let's talk about the success of Rocket League. Did you expect this?
Not to this level, no. We thought that we would do well. That which is the whole reason that we released on PlayStation Plus, was to get it out in front of as many people as possible. But we didn't think it would ever take off to the level it has now. We're at 12 million players in the game. So the fact that we have that many players is far beyond anything we had ever expected. We were hoping that we'd get a few million in our lifetime. 12 million is unbelievable, and we're getting more players every week.
Yeah, I remember you were just telling me out there, you were talking about how the game just week to week is outpacing.
It's true.
Like, it just keeps growing.
Yeah, so we had better sales our third week in January than we did the second week in January, and that beat the week before, and we didn't even have any sales going on. We did have some sales around the Christmas time, like everybody else.
Yeah.
So we didn't quite reach that level because everyone goes crazy around that time. Mm-hmm. But in January, we were outpacing ourselves week after week. In November, we were outpacing ourselves week after week. So it's pretty good. So far this month, in February, we're also doing better week after week. So the fact that it's happening 8 months after the release of the game is the most encouraging thing about it, because one of the misnomers about coming out on something like PlayStation Plus is, well, now you're out, you've given your game to millions of people, and now you have no opportunity to make any money. And that was a worry of ours, but we were willing to give up the short-term benefit of making a bunch of money at first in order to get it in front of as many people as possible, because we thought the game could speak for itself, and people would start telling their friends, and it would grow from there.
I mean, what I think is really cool about it is that it kind of has the same kind of independent vibe that we have, where it's like, we put everything out for free, and it's like, if you want to support, you can. And we kind of have that same bet, where it's like, if we put something that's good out there, then people are going to latch onto it and believe in it. And I think that we've seen that with Rocket League, where, like I was talking about on our Game of the Year discussion thing, where it's like, I definitely have not put enough time into that game. Like, the little I did, I enjoyed it. It's really great. But I said that Rocket League, I think if I had to say from an overall perspective, it was the game of the year last year. Like, you couldn't go anywhere without people talking about
and
it.
That's
like,
what's so crazy is you still can't.
Yeah.
You still can't go anywhere on Twitter, on anybody, on Twitch. Somebody's playing that game that we know. Not just like
exactly.
some randos doing
I think that's the key thing, is it's that our friends and like all of our people, our fans, everybody, like, they're just playing this game because they enjoy it. It's just fun. It's just good. It's not, how much it cost, or was it PlayStation Plus or this, none of that matters. They enjoy the game. You know what I mean? They want to keep playing the game, and they're going to keep playing the game. And I think when people see that, we're talking about advertising, like, that's the best advertising you have. It's like, when you have something that people are talking about and they're genuinely excited about, people are going to get excited about it.
Exactly. And that's why you have to stand behind your game, and you have to hope that you reach a point where you're ready to let it go, because if first of all, if you ask most game developers, they never want to let their game go, because there's always something that they want to add to it. And just need this many more features, and we just need to make sure that this you'll never get rid of your game unless you're willing to put it out there. But you need to get to a point to where you're confident in that your concept and your idea is strong enough to where the players that you built it for are ready for it and expect it. So we had to convince ourselves we're at that part. But once we managed to get over that hump, the fact that people have embraced it so much added pressure and like a responsibility to us to also meet those expectations and keep giving them things. So we take a similar approach that you guys do, is we keep releasing content drops. We just put 50 new items in the game 3 weeks ago, just to put in there things to hide. We've added an item rarity system, so now you can find items like everyone else, but then you have these other items that are harder to find. You get by playing, and we've been adding more modes over time. We added hockey mode in December. We added mutators, which let you change aspects of the game, cube ball, pinball, things like that. And that's just the beginning. So the exciting thing about this year, I thought it'd be too disingenuous for me to list Rocket League as one of my 5 favorite games looking forward to 2016. But since the topic is Rocket League, this year we have a lot of big plans for the game. And we're going to continue to add new modes, which I think are really going to go over well. Some of them are things that folks have been asking for quite a long time.
First-person shooter mode.
No first-person shooter mode, at least not yet, not in the first half. If that's something that we can actually get to work properly, we first have to figure it out and then try it. But the amount of stuff that we have coming, we think are really going to make people happy, because we have modes, we have more content coming. There is going to be some paid DLC here and there.
Sure.
We need that because we have 12 million players so far, so need to keep those servers going. We have just 3 days ago from today, 4 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, we broke our concurrent player record. So player counts are going up, not down. And so we need to keep the servers alive, which is why we're doing paid DLC about once every quarter or so is when we release it. But lots of free stuff because people, they're supporting your game. You need to support them back. And then we want to get money. That's a good portion of the whole point of the business of video games. But you need to be able to charge them at a respectable level to feel like it's a mutual need. They want this content and you're giving it to them regularly, and then the stuff that you want to sell is there just to keep the lights on, and then they're aware that that's just for fun. None of our DLC is ever advantage either. It's all just stuff you think looks cool. So we think that's important.
With the Xbox release, are you looking at that? Is it as exciting? Like, does it feel like a whole new kind of like breath for the thing, or is it just like another?
It does. No, it was a big deal because when we launched on PlayStation, it came out on PlayStation Plus, so we weren't getting the full width of the audience and what they really thought about the game by itself without the PlayStation Plus promotion. A lot of people download PlayStation Plus games because, well, it's there. I'm going to download it while I can, and then maybe get back to it later. So this was really about the game standing on its own. 8 months later, so now it's not like it's brand new. It's not a game that people have just now started to hear of. It's pretty aged in the terms of video games. So it was really interesting for us to be able to see where we stood now compared to where we were, and we were a little bit of an unknown quantity in the beginning. And the fact that we launched very well, we actually, we're still trying to get our numbers back. They weren't all delivered to us by the time this recording has happened. But we have well over 600,000 players on Xbox already. And we're recording this on a Thursday, and the last time that I had the numbers update was yesterday, so it might be even more than that. That's a really good start on that game for it's full priced and 8 months old.
Yeah, man.
So when dialing back to when it comes out on PlayStation Plus, which is just its release, at the initial release, when did you guys realize that maybe this was different than like it was going to beat expectations or something was happening here?
The moment the servers went down. So we were talking. We were talking to Sony as we were leading up to the release about what their expected concurrent players would be.
Yeah.
And so what was your most successful concurrent player count on a PlayStation Plus game that was multiplayer? What should we expect? And they were giving us, because of all the agreements, they can never really tell us specific numbers. But they do give us ranges. And so they said, we expect your game to do maybe between 50 and 80,000 concurrents at best. And we expect you to get maybe a couple million downloads. And that was their estimate. And so we were basing a lot of our server infrastructure and our expectations around those numbers because we thought that would likely be our highest number and it'll settle over time.
Yeah.
And then on day one went by fine because it was one of those releases where we started in Australia and then we started working our way west towards everything else. And it was rolling and everything seemed fine and we were hitting the 30, 40, 50,000 mark and things looked great. And then sometime in the middle of the night after day one started, I got phone calls and Thomas got phone calls. Thomas is our director of development there and was a big component of Rocket League. And the servers were down. And we started looking at the numbers, and we had well over 100,000 people that were now trying to play the game simultaneously. So much to the fact now that they were hitting our game so much that we couldn't keep the servers up. And they were also hitting our website to the point where it took that down. So our website was down, the game was down, and our player feed from our CDN was also down because so many people were unlocking so many achievements or scoring so many things that the feed couldn't keep up. The server couldn't keep up with the game players. Our website couldn't keep up with the traffic, and we're like, "What's happening?" And then, so we had to we rewrote the entire netcode of the game in a couple of days.
Jeez.
And so we had to.
Yeah,
and
of course.
we had to, and so we did that, and that was our first super hotfix release that we did. At the same time, we just frantically tried to get as many servers as we could. And the fact is, a lot of them didn't exist. We had to have them built on top of it. So we're having these servers built, and we're adding all this new netcode. It was nuts. And a good portion of us at the office probably didn't sleep for about a week and a half. I mean, we were grabbing 1-2 hours sleep at a time. Thomas tells a story that's absolutely true about how at one point he was just coding so much, his fiance, now wife, was literally feeding him force feeding him to eat while he was playing because he was so in the zone and so tired. It was the only way that he even remembered that he was supposed to eat.
Jeez Louise.
But it worked out.
And that's the thing. I mean, did you guys, I have to imagine the fear is that you were like, oh my God, servers are down. This is now we're losing our shot, right? How many people try to ping a game, it doesn't work, fuck this, and they're out and gone.
That was a concern.
Yeah.
But I mean, our whole company philosophy, and this is what we were doing from the beginning, was just to be as transparent as possible and say, and we told everyone, we did not expect this many people.
Yeah.
You guys are playing the game, which is great, but we weren't prepared to handle it because these numbers are way beyond what we expected.
Yeah.
So we try. The only thing we could do was tell them the truth. We're working on it as quickly as we can. We're going to have it up as quickly as we can, and here's what we're going to do to make it up to you. And so we created some free items for everyone that had to go through the problem. They can download and have added to the game. We kept giving them updates as often as we could. And that's really what your player base wants. A big problem with players, with communities in general and how they're treated is they're just treated like bouncing boards. Here's an announcement. Now we'll wait for a couple of weeks and see how you react to our next announcement. And that's what creates a lot of these issues where games launch with problems and then get torn apart because there's no level of transparency or communication. They're just like, well, deal with it. We know that that's a mistake because if we don't have a healthy community and one that's involved, they're going to move on. Just like you said, they're going to make, screw this game. Yeah. Let's go play something else. So it was very important to us to keep them informed. And we think that was a big help because people remember that we had server issues at launch, but one of the big benefits is they know why. It wasn't like it was some bad code because
the game was broken.
It wasn't
too popular.
But we fixed it and we let them know and we gave them ETAs. And whenever we do anything wrong, we let them know. We like, you know what, this isn't right. We're going to fix this or we're going to change this. And we give them as much heads up as we can, as often as we can, about things that are coming into the game. Right now, there are so many things going on that sometimes we don't have as much heads up as we'd like to because patches will come in hot. Sure. And we'll be like, okay, this is going out. And we're like, oh, we need to tell people this is happening tomorrow. But that's our whole philosophy. Tell your community what you're doing and what you want to do, and they reciprocate by playing your game, telling other friends about the game, and they keep supporting you.
Was the plan always, you're talking about how big 2016 is going to be.
Yeah.
Did you guys always envision supporting it like this and how you're doing it this long, or was it?
Not this aggressively.
Okay.
We plan on supporting it for sure. We said before the game came out, we have long-term plans to support this game. Mm. But because it is so popular and because it's so well received, that we wanted to make sure that we kept people happy. And so what we've been doing is we've been updating a lot more regularly than we really expected, probably about twice as fast, or I shouldn't say as fast, twice as often as we expected. So originally we were gonna have quarterly updates. That was the plan before we blew up, and now we have essentially quarterly paid DLC, which are range between $2 and $4. We don't want to overprice any of this stuff, and it's all, like I said earlier, it's all just vanity stuff.
Like the Back to the Future,
like the Back to the Future,
which was awesome.
Thank you. It's all just stuff to make people feel cool. But then in terms of regular updates, quality of life updates, new game modes, we've been doing those 2 to 3 times a quarter, depending on how aggressive the mode is.
Sure.
And that is our plan right now, to at least have one, because I don't want to overpromise. Some of these are a lot of work. At least one major new thing every quarter in addition to the paid DLC. So the most recent thing obviously was the mutators. And now we've just launched our season 2, which is our competitive thing, where we've changed a bunch of ways that our competitive side works. And we did item drops. And now we have a couple of game modes that we're working on that are really cool. And it'll hurt our whole, like, check it out if I say too much about it.
Of course.
But they're really cool. They're totally different than what your people are playing with now.
Okay.
And we're excited to let people play.
That's awesome,
but 2016 is going to be a big year for us.
That's really cool.
What I want to back up a little bit in terms of before Rocket League came out. What were your expectations in terms of, you knew you had a good game? I mean, obviously the game's good or whatever, but what was it? It's surprising to me, having played the game and were exposed to the game beforehand, that people didn't quite. It's just surprising me that people didn't understand that this game was going to be huge. Like I kind of found that it was obvious. Like it was almost self-apparent. Like it was just like, this game's going to be huge. And how did you find like evangelical people before and after the game came out? Like, how does that kind of help in terms of, because we were talking a little bit about GameSpot, who seems to be like super evangelical, and I'm talking about Big Alex, I'm not talking about people like us, but I'm talking about like big tastemakers out there.
Right.
Did you anticipate that you guys were going to kind of resonate with them too? Because it seems like, I'm surprised when I see outlets that don't talk about Rocket League or don't play it, because it's such a phenomenon. It's really part of the zeitgeist right now of games.
Anticipate, no. Hope, yes. So what we did is our whole approach was we debuted the game on PlayStation at PSX, the first one, where we were there and you guys dropped. Or Colin did. You had an engagement, but you got to check it out later.
Well, that's the one when he came back. And he's
Yeah.
like, Dunham's new game's awesome. Like, what is it again? He's like, soccer but with cars.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds not like a game I'd want to play.
And that's why it didn't necessarily take off, right? It's because when you hear soccer with cars, there's either the people that don't like soccer.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't think it's their kind of sport, or they don't like cars, or they have an idea of how car games or soccer games currently work, and there's this expectation in their head of how it would most likely work, versus how the game actually works.
Sure.
And so that was one of the big hurdles. Plus, Rocket League is actually a sequel to the first game, Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars, and that wasn't something that was commercially well known. But
I
those
wonder
who,
why.
Yeah, that's why we shortened the name, obviously. But those that did know, the folks in the media, remember that game only had between high 6s to mid 7s in most reviews, a couple of 8s. But they didn't think that it was this huge game, right? Yeah. What they didn't realize and what they didn't understand is that even though the original reviews weren't that strong, it was a different time. It came out in 2008, which you guys were part of the games media then. You know, in 2008, PlayStation Network games were not very strongly promoted by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
The company didn't have any budget to tell anyone about it. PlayStation Network games, again, were written off usually as just a set of side games. Twitch and YouTube had not taken off on a huge level yet. It was getting there.
Yeah.
Twitch didn't exist. And gaming culture as a whole was not yet accepted as part of the mainstream like it is now.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of different factors in how that game was perceived versus how that game could now get viral this time. So to answer your question is what we did is once people, once we had a build that we could actually give people, which we started doing betas around PS. We started with alphas and betas in the PC, but once we got really close to finishing, we moved it to PS4. We just told streamers, any streamer who wants to play this game, let us know, we'll send you a code. Because to us, that was the best way just to try it, is to get it in front of these people and let them try it and see what happens. And that we had no money. We couldn't advertise. We couldn't do anything. So our entire marketing campaign was completely based on faith in the game and using the right set of promotional tools outside of ourselves to help get the word out.
Yeah, because you came on Beyond when we were still there, right?
Yeah.
And came on and said, if you want this on there, you have to tweet
Let
us know. And everybody did. And then you came back and put people in the beta and
Yeah, and that was the beginning of understanding there was an audience on PS4.
Yeah.
And that we could then, and from that point forward, it was a build up to getting to PSX, and the PSX reaction was good. And then we got to the beta, and then we could give it to streamers, and the streamers liked it.
Sure.
And then people were watching and were like, what is this game? And then when we announced that we're coming to PlayStation Plus right after that, people were excited because now they saw this game, they knew what it was about, and it was just this big snowball effect.
Yeah, I mean, that was for us. I remember in our audience when you guys brought it in and streamed with us. After it was during the summer, but it was still that thing of like, what is this game? And when you play it, but I think for our audience watching Colin and I play it and freak out and yell at each other and stuff, there was something to that of like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Got some questions from the audience here.
Sure.
We got Rusty Shackleford. He says, if I dislike soccer and have held out on playing Rocket League this far, what's the deal? How can you sell me on it?
I just did.
There you go.
I just did. It's fun. The whole point of the game is that we want you to have fun with it no matter how good you are, and whether or not you're winning or losing, you should still have fun. So that's what we think is really interesting about it. It has layers. It's simple to play. It's just go with R2 if you're using a PlayStation 4 controller, and that's really it. And then you have X to jump. But where the game really gets interesting is where you start adding the different layers of what you can do. We have a boost that lets you go supersonic speed. You can jump and double jump and fly through the air and drive on the
Spinning
walls.
kicks.
Yes, there's blocking, and there's none of the extraneous rules that normal soccer has, where there's not offsides or there aren't penalties. It's just simple, but the more you play it, the more you realize that it has a lot of layers to it. And because we don't have any animations in the game and it's completely physics-based, you're not waiting for certain behaviors to unfold before you do them. Whatever you're doing is your skill level being reflected in the game.
Mm-hmm. So speaking on kind of like the layers of that, Wyatt wants to know what do you see Rocket League and its involvement with esports? And will you guys sponsor any of your own events?
We have really aggressive. 2016 is going to be a big year because it is a year that we're going to start embracing esports. We're going to have some announcements about that very, very soon. We're pretty excited about it. We're not throwing around $1 million like the Halo guys do. We can't do that yet. But no, but we do have some very aggressive plans. We have some really cool things that we can't reveal just yet. But as soon as we can, we're going to spill the beans. It is going to be very soon that we start talking about these things, but we need to get through the next couple of weeks first and a couple of, shall we say, crossing the T's and dotting the I's sort of thing.
That's awesome. I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, that's the big thing when you see, like I was talking about, I was at a developer the other day. They were ending and doing a tournament. GameSpot does their tournament. I remember when we were at RTX, what a big deal that tournament was. And when Freddie Wong heard about it, he demanded to be in it and stuff like that. Yeah. People love playing
It's crazy, man.
And there's such a strata between I'm trying to have fun and then I'm amazing at this. And I missed the weekend to be good at Rocket League. And I haven't had a chance to invest to ever get good again. But like I'm still on the Rocket League Reddit because I love watching all the GIFs of people with these insane shots and blocks and all these other things.
And the thing that stands out about that is that some of these things that they do, we never even anticipated that would be possible.
Yeah.
That's one of the coolest things about the game is seeing people discover new elements to the title that we didn't even think was there. And watching play styles evolve over time. In the beginning, it was people just rushing the ball and trying to score. And then people started realizing that they could do aerials and so you saw aerial play take over. And then turtling, which is where you're on your back, that sort of took over when people started realizing how that they could do that. And now you're seeing a trend towards freestyling where people are just doing crazy things in the air before scoring. And so it's really interesting to watch the audience evolve and the skill level evolve and what sort of form is overtaking on the competitive scene and the casual scene, because it's also different on both sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Final thing comes from Dubinator. He says, no question, just to thank you for helping make Rocket League. The game is awesome.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
And I have a quick, one of the things I'm interested in, and I talked about this a little bit, and people have pointed me in the right directions, but people have developed into goaltenders in the game, right? Like that, the people play goal in the game, which I think is like so funny because it's so glamorous yet like so essential. And
it's incredibly important. Yeah. And then that's sort of that's one of the elements of the game that is truly organic about it, is that the roles aren't assigned. We don't tell people you're a goalie and you're a forward and you're a wingman. We don't do anything like that. We're just play and you figure it out. And the teams over time have now realized how important certain positions are and do it themselves. And different teams have different styles. And but what's really great about it is that you now have this whole subset of goaltending players that do things that are absolutely unbelievable in terms of how they can get to the ball at the last second and they can block it with just the butt end of their car. I mean, some of these things are really spectacular, and our office watches it together whenever there's a big tournament streaming, and we freak out about it because we ourselves don't even anticipate some of the things that are going on in the game. So it's really cool watching the players just come up with these new techniques. And there was a point where we would do developers play against top players, and we would hold our own and win 50% of the time. We always lose now. They're so good. That's
a good sign.
Good. Yeah.